So, gentlemen, and I'm going to go right to Hargeet on this. Hargeet, look, you don't have it in front of you, and I apologize because you're not on Twitter. I should have probably emailed you this, but this is, again, folks, it's just one of many DMs that I've gotten from many people like King Webb and so many others on Twitter. And there is a conversation happening on Reddit regarding PlayStation's quality in their first-party games, and more specifically, the quality of games going into the service. This is just one of many, and I wanted to use it as a talking point before we get out of here, and I want to get everyone's hot take opinion. Hargeet, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it verbatim from the actual posting. It says, the title here is Difference in Quality Recently with Xbox Game Pass, and it's an opinion piece. It says this, Hargeet, anyone else extremely jealous between the difference in quality between Game Pass and PlayStation Plus recently? Game Pass just had this past week, and they got Expedition 33 and Oblivion Remaster as day one releases. I believe they are getting a new Doom game on there as well. I feel like us PlayStation Plus users are getting effed over with what we're receiving in return for our subscription. Recently, we got blueprints, which is great. But you know who else got blueprints on release? Game Pass. Sorry for the rant, but I'm just frustrated with PlayStation Plus recently. Cheerio. Let's get your hot take on that, because again, this is just one of many that I read, but it is a conversation, and now it makes me wonder, Hargeet, are we going to see these frustrated gamers who might be just a pinch higher than normies potentially move over to Xbox and Xbox Game Pass?
Yeah, so this person apparently doesn't realize that Xbox owns those games, right? So outside of Expedition, obviously that was not them, and Blue Prince, but like he was surprised that Doom is coming to Game Pass. Like, no, that's an Xbox game, and every Xbox game goes into Game Pass. I don't think they realize that, that is owned by Xbox. That is part of Microsoft's problem. They don't really, I guess, I don't know how they're supposed to tell people that, but it's like, dude, Call of Duty is owned by Xbox. That's coming to Game Pass, period. Right? And every, Bethesda game, every id game, that's coming to Game Pass because they own it. Right? And that story needs to be kind of out there. So yeah, this is going to keep happening. This has always been the thing. As I said, the enthusiasm gap is going to keep increasing. Where is the last, okay, so they had Ghost of Yotai. They chose to do a state of play on Borderlands and not include their own game, Ghost of Yotai. Tell me how that makes any sense. Can anybody explain that to me? Can anybody explain? If you have an opportunity to create enthusiasm about your content, why would you not have a state of play that includes your game? That makes no sense to me. What are they thinking? But this is what they do. This is what they do. There's just some absolute lacking in the ability to understand gaming at the top levels of PlayStation these days. Because the people that were there before would have understood that. And they would make sure to actually do that in a way that makes it so that you get the biggest exposure. They instead have a state of play for a third-party game that everybody knows is everywhere. And fine, it looks good. Borderlands is good, fine, whatever. But what does that do for your platform? It just tells you, oh, this third-party game is here. That's nice. Where's your stuff? Right?
They moved it. That was a barter. That was a barter. Sony's broke. Okay, so they couldn't pay Borderlands, but they moved their date off of Marathon. Yep, they moved their date off of Marathon and gave Ghost of Yotai some space because Ghost of Yotai would have came out right after. Yeah, because it's October 2nd. So that was a barter.
So this is just, but then they should know that. And then this wasn't 6 weeks later. It was like a week later. Why would you not coordinate your state of play to include both of them? That would have made it more. Anyway, whatever. This is who they are. Okay. The enthusiasm gap is going to keep increasing. They're going to keep seeing this. The June showcase is still going to be crazy. No matter what.
It's going to be bonkers. Yeah.
And so you tell me, okay, so what's the PlayStation equivalent, right? At least I know Nintendo is going to come in and say, oh, here's our fall lineup, because we haven't told you what our fall lineup is. So there's going to be something, right? And it's going to have Call of Duty there. It's going to have many other games from Xbox there, but it's also going to have first-party games. Fair enough. At least I have something to look forward to. What is PlayStation showing me? So if you bought into the PlayStation, what do you get? You get Xbox games. That's what you get. That's literally it, because that's all that's sustaining you right now, is you get to play Xbox games. Okay, cool. But on this side, now this is pre-increase in price, but on this side, you do get Game Pass. You can play those same games, and they're day and date available to us. Like, you don't have to wait for Indiana Jones, right? You don't have to wait for other games like Forza Horizon 5 to show up on your platform. We get them when they come out, and they come into Game Pass day and date, right? It doesn't mean you can't buy them if you want to. Fair enough, buy it, whatever. But it comes into the service, right? And that's what you're seeing, right? They're finally seeing, like, hold on, wait a minute. All this stuff is going into that service. Damn.
And he specifically mentioned Doom.
Going to happen.
Like, that's a driving point of the conversation. He goes, and again, he's not sure, because maybe he's a normie. Because I think they're
doesn't
getting
realize
Doom
that
day
is
one.
owned by Xbox, right? Yeah, exactly. That is an Xbox game. And this again, that's messaging on Xbox. They should do a better job of making that more apparent.
It sounds better, but it sounds better. People thinking Doom is going into Game Pass just because it's going into Game Pass and not because it's owned. So Microsoft knows exactly what it's doing. It's not stupid, but it's a choice.
But it's better for a consumer to know that, hey, oh, wait, all this stuff is automatically in Game Pass permanently?
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap.
Yes.
Right? That makes the value that much better from a upfront perspective. But look, this is going to keep continuing when Ninja Gaiden 4 goes in, because that is a Microsoft published game. It is permanently in Game Pass, right? You got Outer Worlds 2 coming. You got every Call of Duty coming, on and on. There's so much going on here, and they're getting some pretty big games. Wu Chang is still to come. We'll see how that does. It looked pretty good. We'll see what it does. Expedition 33, when we first saw that, we're like, wow, this looks crazy. This looks pretty good. Right? And it turned out to be one of the Game of the Year contenders. Awesome, right? Blueprint's the other one, right? Game of the Year contender, probably, right? And there it is in Game Pass. I don't know what the story is with Split Fiction, because that did not go to EA Play. It should have, but it did not go to EA Play. But if it does end up in EA Play, that also ends up in Game Pass, right? So this is yet another boon that Xbox just has.
That could happen by end of year. Usually it's about 6 months from release.
But they didn't even put it in EA Play Pro.
Yeah, it's not.
So this is one of the controversies, right? So the Split Fiction did not go into EA Play Pro. EA Play Pro advertises all EA games will go into that service, and they did not even honor that.
Game went into EA Play Pro. I'm a subscriber.
Yeah, so this is just crazy, right? But that's a separate story. But yeah, I think this enthusiasm gap is just going to keep happening. Every game showcase you get from Xbox shows all this stuff saying Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass, and then you say, well, wait, why am I over here then? What am I? So that was always going to happen. Now, a lot of those games are going to go over to PlayStation and Switch, right? That's cool. If you want to buy them, and in this world of $80 games, enjoy.
Buy them.
Go ahead and pay the $80, and we'll keep getting the value over here, right? But hey, we'll see how this ends up going. But I think that enthusiasm gap was always going to start pushing people away. I've always been saying that as if PlayStation can't bring the heat, they're going to be in trouble, and it's very hard for them to bring the heat to the same level, right? This is where Microsoft is Microsoft. Microsoft can dump $70 billion and say, oh, we'll just buy the biggest game publisher in Activision Blizzard game. Why not? I'll just buy that. Okay, if I wanted to buy Take-Two, sure, I could just go buy that. You can't do that on Sony's side. It's very tough for them to come up with that kind of capital. Could they do it? Sure. It would bet the farm of Sony on that then, right? Is it a good potential acquisition? Sure. But you saw what happened there. They instead went and bought Bungie for $3.6 billion. How's that turning out? But anyhow, it is what it is right now. And I like Marathon is just unfortunately is following the same path as Concord, and it's just not a good sign. It's just not.
Everyone I've actually talked to people that played it, and it's so again, just you brought up Concord. Here's just some context. Last week? It was last week. Paul Tassi did a report when he played it, and he basically said the game needs to be delayed. Ecstasies played it. Yeah, he put out a post. I saw it this morning. I didn't know he had access to it. He did, and he says this game needs to be delayed forthwith. So if the game is coming out and it was originally going up against Borderlands, which Borderlands moved, and even Randy Pitchford said, I know it's a little bit off of subject, but he said, "Oh, it's not because of GTA. Listen, you work for 2K, knucklehead. Of course it is. You want to get your game out of the way of that, like everybody else. They're not stupid."
No, they took the back.
But yeah, so Marathon. I hope they can do something with. But look, people say maybe it should be delayed. I don't know that that's going to change anything unless you're telling me.
Nothing's going to change. The game just whack.
The one thing that would make it compelling is if it had a single player campaign.
Yep.
Right, an actual story campaign that makes you care. I don't care about this game at all. I'm not an extraction shooter person. What am I going to do with this, right?
Not many people
I tried Destiny, right? Because it had a campaign, right? And I could play the campaign. Like I play Call of Duty. I play the campaign. I don't play the Call of Duty multiplayer, right? I'm one of those few people who only buy Call of Duty for the freaking campaign. So I play the campaign. Now it just comes to the Game Pass, so I don't care. But but this is the thing. Like I don't know what Marathon, but anyway, I don't want to get into Marathon. It's something we can discuss when that comes closer to release, and let's see what happens with it. But as far as the enthusiasm gap, this is what you're getting, right? The games that they're putting out are not the ones they want. Right. They're putting out Concords and Marathons and fair games. That's not what the PlayStation player wants. They want another God of War. Well, I'm sorry, that takes a long time to make. So you're not going to get that for a while. And they had a whole bunch of games in development that were all multiplayer that they decided, we're just going to kill these. So that's gone. And then they had the delay that happened. They were all going to get hit by the COVID delay. That happened. It just hit them afterwards. So they are now dealing with that, like a little bit of a lull in content. That's where it is. And that enthusiasm gap, it was going to be there. So now what do? I don't know. Right. We're going to see how that plays out. If Xbox can turn it around and have, before PlayStation comes up with a lot of games, can turn it out and say, hey, here's a new generation. Here's all of our cool content that just keeps piling and piling. Like once you have like 4 or 5 years of continuous, just like crazy, like it's been like this 23, 24, 25, 26 is not going to be slowing down.
To be even more
27 is not going to slow down. It's going to keep going. All the stuff we already know. Exactly, Simone. We already know about games. They can't and you can't just release them all in the same year. So we already know the next couple of years are crazy. They have games. That's it. They have games.
Yeah.
Games is what people want. If the platform is going to have it, that's where it's going to be. So now the question is like, oh, but some of these games are going elsewhere. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. The ones that don't will pull you to the ecosystem, right? It's just the way it is.
Also in Game Pass, right? And that's the whole crux of this conversation. You said it perfectly. My God, it was perfect. The enthusiasm gap. I don't think I could have come up with that myself. Honestly, that is really the point of the whole conversation, because again, you just said there's going to be people that are going to push and say, well, I could play it here. You could for $80 potentially, but you go over here for $20, you don't have to.
And so the reason why enthusiasm matters is, right, this is a medium of entertainment, and entertainment is definitely more emotional than rational, right? Yes. We do things emotionally more so than rationally when it comes to entertainment. That's just the way it is, right? I feel like I like this IP. I like this television show. It's all based on feelings. There's no like, well, I did the Excel calculations and this had this apparent. No, nobody does that. You do it based on feelings. It's the way it is, right? And the more you create that feelings of like, I get stuff here and I get nothing there. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. You could take the Xbox One versus PS4. PS4 didn't have like 400 times the number of games. They had like maybe 5 more games, but it felt like, oh my God, because the games were bigger, like they were bigger in scope. They were more graphically impressive, right? You just had more of those kind of games. So more like the AAA budget, high quality game versus what Xbox was playing. It's not like they didn't have any of those games. They did. They just didn't have the number. They had more smaller games, an Ori, right? Or a Recore. And you're like, well, but they had Spider-Man, right? And you're like, yeah, exactly. That's the difference that happens, right? And you're like, well, so that side's giving me now it's reversed, right? The games that you want are going to be on this side, right? Yeah, are they going to have the smaller games? Sure. They're also going to have massive games. So it's just kind of how it goes. And that enthusiasm gap, the emotion, right, is just going to be on this side. We'll see how that plays out. There's also negative emotions, things like price hikes, but everybody's doing that, right? I mean, PlayStation's been doing price hikes too. Nintendo just did a massive price hike. So, it is what it is. So I think that is going to play a factor. And I've been saying that. I think that's going to keep happening because year after year, that June showcase is going to be crazy just because of content. They have so much, right? That this is the world that we're in when we're talking about Xbox. PlayStation is going to be hard to keep up. I'm also interested to see how many more of these third-party lockdowns from indie devs are going to keep having, because it was Shuhei was doing that, right? Shuhei Yoshida was going out there and making those happen. Is that going to continue? Because he's not there anymore. So are they going to have more of these? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see, right? But like the Lost Soul Aside and Phantom Blade Zero and Black Myth Wukong and all these things that they went and did, right? That's cool. But that was Shuhei. I don't know who's doing that now. Maybe they still have somebody and it's all still happening. I don't know, right? We'll see how that plays out going forward. But good God, has Xbox been like killing it, dude. They've been, even their third-party entries are crazy. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So, Atomfall and Sniper Elite, which, don't sleep on that, right? And Eternal Strands and, on and on and on. Blueprints. Crazy.
Unique shit too. You know what I'm saying? It's not just the hype type of games that people normally get hyped for. Like Eternal Strands, phenomenal. Atomfall, really good, right? Expedition. I mean, come on, man. Expedition 33 is like crazy. Like, it's just they're at a different level now. And it's because now, the benefits of Game Pass are known. Right. Yeah. It's not just about, these people get to play it for free. No, you get that marketing, right? You get that extra money up front. There's so much that comes with it. It's crazy. But the guy on your Reddit post, we just did a show on the idea of PlayStation fans being fed up. We just had, I don't know, that what's up PlayStation. Persona Speaks or whatever his name is, he went ahead and had a whole big rant on how like why should we not expect more from PlayStation, right? Their prices are going up, all these things are happening. Why should we be okay that PlayStation doesn't show us what games they're working on, if they're working on anything, right? Like, this is a thing that's happening. It's growing more and more, right? There's only so much that they can downplay and pretend that everything's okay at PlayStation when you see how many games are being released and Xbox attached to so many of them now, right? But I really don't think that it's going to change too much on the console side, or Game Pass for that matter. I think people will get adjusted to whatever price it is, and then they'll just buy more games on sale. Just because at the end of the day, most of the world still doesn't think about Xbox, right? Or care, right? All these other countries out there, they can give three. They don't care what Xbox does or what they're doing. This is the reason why what Xbox is doing is genius, because they are reaching people that would never ever had been pumped to play an Xbox game, but now they are doing so. Right now they are going crazy for the Xbox games because Xbox owns all the exciting games that are being released. And when you think about this guy, right, he doesn't even know Doom is owned by Xbox. The thing is that as cool as the games that Xbox release are, like a South of Midnight, right? Oh my God, so good. Expedition 33 on the Game Pass. Wow, that's amazing. But let's be clear, the vast majority of players in the world don't give a shit about any of these games, right?
They would be looking for like the Call of Duty.
They want games they know, right? Yeah. That's why Doom is messing with people, because people know Doom, right?
Yep.
People want to play Doom. People are saying, I'm going to buy Doom. And you're saying, hold on, you're telling me if I had Game Pass, I didn't have to buy Doom? That's crazy, right? Same thing's going to happen when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, right? When the whole world is going to be looking at that game. See, people forget that as much as we were so pumped for Starfield, right? Bethesda making a brand new world. Oh my God, this is amazing. Nobody knows Starfield. And that's just the reality of what it is. It was
just look at what Oblivion did, right?
Exactly. Exactly, because as soon as Oblivion came out, it's like, oh my God, Oblivion's out. What? It's in Game Pass. What? This is the way. And this is why, we said it so many times, but you think Xbox is done buying? No. Why?
Not
because
even
that
close,
list,
dude.
that top 10 list, that top 15 played list that we see every week, that we make fun of PlayStation because none of their PlayStation first party games are ever on their list because nobody plays those games. That's their that's their grocery list. Okay. If you want to know where Xbox next big target is going to be, look at that list, because that's where they want to be.
Yeah.
They want to be where people are looking for these games.
Yeah, you're right.
People are expecting these games to exist, and they want to be in a situation where games that have no chance of ever going away, they want to be tied to those games. Right?
The zeitgeist scenario that you're talking about. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what it was always about. Remember, we used to talk shit about PlayStation having the zeitgeist, right? Because they had Spider-Man, right? They had the things that the world was excited for, right? Xbox has now decided that they were going to go ahead and do the same. And I'm sorry, but as cool as Spider-Man is, it's not Call of Duty, right? They said, I'm sorry, we're going to own the most important game in gaming right now, Call of Duty. We also own a game that can release a movie that is going to be hitting $1 billion. That's right. They own Minecraft, right? Like, you want to talk about the spectrums. They own children and grown-ass people, right? This is just the way they are, right? They own everything, and they're going to own more. And now this is the beauty of this conversation, right? We can say this, and it's exciting for everyone. Because when Xbox owns more, they're still going to get access to it. They're just going to get a better version of that game, right? They're going to get more because Xbox is going to be willing to do more for the properties they know are guaranteed to bring in money. If they were to buy Take-Two tomorrow, you got NBA 2K. NBA 2K will reach new heights.
You got WWE. You got Grand Theft Auto. You got
heights. Grand Theft Auto is already going to be huge, but like, all these things are not going to take away from anyone else in the world. But what it is going to do is take those measly 35, 40, 50 million players who have Game Pass. That's going to be glorious for us. It is going to keep hurting those who have to look over the fence and say, damn it, I really want to play Doom, and I gotta go buy it. But you're telling me they get to play it for free? You're gonna start seeing the conversation go from, wow, Xbox sucks, look at them, ha 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 ha, to, God, I wish we were like Xbox.